I'm Jen Herman. We're going to be talking today about Instagram stuff. And as I pull up my slides, I just want to remind you that this is the first session in 3. We're going to have 3 back-to-back sessions this week. If I would go to screen share, there we go. And so we're going to have lots of stuff we're going to be talking about today and also over the next 2 days as well. So if you are not registered for the follow-on classes, make sure you're signed up for those as well, because we do have this all structured for today's session to roll into the next session and roll into Wednesday's session. So they're all going to play off of each other for a lot of Instagram resources and information for all of you. Additionally, make sure that if you have questions at any point while we are going through today, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat. I'm not going to grab questions as we go, but we will leave time at the end for questions so we can come back and answer those. If you've left those in the chat, we don't forget what our questions are at the end, and I'll come back and answer those, assuming they haven't already been answered. And if it's something that I know we're going to talk about tomorrow, I'll kind of give you like a short answer and just give you the heads up that we'll be covering that in the future session. Familiar with me, as I said, my name is Jen Herman. I am known as an Instagram expert around the world. I'm actually the world's forefront blogger on Instagram marketing, although I don't actually do as much blogging these days as I used to. But I tend to work with organizations of all sizes, from small businesses up to large global organizations. But I also do a lot with realtors and real estate professionals, whether that's brokers, agencies, and other components of the real estate space. And I've had the privilege to speak at the NAR conference here when it was in San Diego. I'm down here in San Diego. When it was here this past year, I've also spoken at the California Association of Realtors event a couple times as well. So I am well versed in some of the challenges and unique components that come from the real estate space when it comes to using social media and especially Instagram. So all the things that we're going to talk about are going to be tailored to you and how you can use this to grow your business, to get more leads, to get more traffic to your website and all that sort of stuff by using Instagram. So with that being said, we're going to jump right in. I do want to remind you that you will get copies of the slides. You'll get a PDF version of these slides so you can go back and reference them. But if at any point you want to grab a screenshot of something, if you are, furiously writing notes, you don't have to copy everything on the slides. You will get copies of those slides for your reference as well. Okay, so I always like to ask by a show of hands, but it's kind of hard to see it on Zoom, so I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I am curious how many of you are actively using Instagram for your business right now. So if you want to drop it in the chat, and just whether or not you are, super active on Instagram, or you kind of like dipping your toes in the water, or you haven't really gotten started yet, just kind of get a feel for where all of you are at. That would be super helpful. Okay, so got a dipping toes. And so feel free to drop those comments in there for me and we can go through those as we get started into this. Only read, don't post. Okay, so that's good to know as well. You guys are going to be in for a treat. You're going to have all the good foundations that you need going forward so that you can start out successfully. We have dipping toes, posting stories, and a little bit of reels. Good. Toes are dipped. Okay, so we have a lot of people tiptoeing into the water, but not a lot of people jumping deep into the deep end. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that feedback. All right, so why I love Instagram is a long list. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm kind of obsessed with Instagram. I pretty much live, eat, breathe, sleep, and all the things related to Instagram. But there's a lot of reasons why I love it from a business component and also in the real estate space. So number one reason is with over 1 billion monthly active users, your audience is on Instagram. And this is something where we still tend to fall into this, oh, well, it's only those, those millennials are on there and it's only for college kids. But we actually have a very wide range of user demographic, everything from those high school kids all the way up to retirees are using Instagram. And really your target age demographic for home buyers and sellers is the second largest demographic on Instagram. And when I say that target age demographic, I'm talking about pretty much that 35 to 55 range. That's usually going to be the kind of hot spot for those sellers and the buyers as well. Now, of course, there's still people buying and selling at older ages and younger ages, but that hot age is the second largest demographic on Instagram, meaning, again, your audience really is there on the platform. It's just a matter of finding them. And on average, users spend 53 minutes a day on Instagram. So that's an hour of their lives that they're spending scrolling through Instagram. That's a chance for you to get in front of them, whether that's reels, stories, feed posts, all the different types of things. We'll be talking about all of those in the coming trainings. Another reason why I love Instagram from a business perspective is that traffic from Instagram has lower bounce rates than all of the social media platforms. And if you're not familiar, a bounce rate is when someone comes to your website and bounces right off. That usually comes from like clickbait, meaning that the title was one thing and they get there and they're like, that's not what I thought I was going to get, and they leave. It comes from fat thumbing. You're scrolling through Facebook or something and you accidentally click on a link that you didn't mean to click on. Well, what didn't want to be there, and you bounce back off the website. Anything that's a high bounce is obviously not ideal. We don't want high bounce rates. We want low bounce rates, meaning when someone comes to your website, they're on that page, they scroll, they read, they click on links, they fill out, opt-in form or whatever that is. So low bounce rate is good, and traffic from Instagram is virtually a 0% bounce rate, meaning you have to work a little bit harder to get them to click on that link. But once they get there, they genuinely want to be there. And so you've got higher quality traffic coming from Instagram than most other platforms. Additionally, it's one of the strongest community building tools for your brand. Instagram is a community-focused environment, and that's not something that other platforms aren't. You can say that about pretty much any social media platform. But because of the very reciprocal nature, because of the very interactive nature that we get on Instagram, people tend to connect more with each other. And I have a long line of stories. One of the ones I always share is that I have a friend of mine who we were a lifetime ago, back when Instagram was a baby. We connected on Instagram. We were actually in a mutual kind of co-authoring of a blog share. So we kind of we knew each other's names, but didn't really know each other. And so we followed each other on Instagram, but immediately connected because of our content on Instagram and started chatting. And now I legit stay at her house when I go out to the East Coast. And so we built this amazing friendship just because of a couple Instagram posts and seeing that familiarity in someone who had similar interests and that conversation that started from that. And so that's why it can be such a powerful tool, not just for you personally, but you can build those relationships with your audience in a very strong and powerful way when building up those relationships for things like ultimately those buyers and sellers who may not be ready right now, but they could be ready in a year or 2 years. And Instagram gives you the chance to build that relationship. Also, Instagram has some of the highest engagement rates for all social media, which is good, but unfortunately it keeps getting lower. And we'll talk more about this. But right now, average engagement on Instagram is a whopping 1%. Yes, I said 1%. And yes, that is exponentially higher than most other social media. Facebook has an average engagement of 0.17%. Twitter has an average engagement of 0.01%. So the only social media platform that outranks Instagram in terms of engagement is TikTok. And that's because TikTok is a more engaging platform in general. It's also younger. It's not as saturated. And we don't actually have any solid data on TikTok. So their engagement is anything from 10% to 70%, depending on the study that you look at. So I have no clear data to actually recognize what TikTok engagement looks like. But Instagram, we have pure, true studies and stats that do show us that the average engagement, like I said, is 1%. But that's not meaning that, you're going to have to expect low engagement. Most small businesses and most real estate professionals usually get into double-digit engagement, meaning, 10% or higher. So that's about what you should be aiming for. If you're getting 10% engagement, you're doing good. Anything above that is a really good stat for overall performance in terms of engagement. But obviously, that's not the most important metric. And on Wednesday, I'm going to walk you through what you actually need to worry about when it comes to insights and measuring for performance. All right, so today, we're going to be talking about how to optimize your Instagram profile. And the reason we're starting here is because I want to start with the foundations. Everything that we're going to talk about, whether it's creating content that is, feed, reel, stories, all this, that sort of stuff, you're all trying to get people to your website, to an opt-in, to an open house, whatever that ultimate goal is. It all comes back to your profile. It comes back to how your profile is structured, what links you have, the contact information you have, and how everything is set up to optimize those conversions. So we're starting with the foundations. And even if you think your profile is ready to go, we're going to give you a couple extra tips today to make sure that it is set up for success. So when you look at your profile, there are 5 key areas that we want to consider. One is going to be the name and the username. So the name is the bold letters right below your profile photo. In this case, that's Rita. That is literally her name. Her username is what you see up at the top, and that's your @ and then your username. That's how you're typically known on Instagram. So when you comment, when you engage, when you send DMs, those sorts of things, you're typically known as your username. So a couple things to keep in mind. These do not, nor should they even be the same. They do not need to be the same. They can absolutely be different. And it helps them if they're different because it actually gives you more functionality for search if they aren't exactly the same. In this case, because Rita has it as her name, it's perfectly fine that they are the same. However, she could throw a keyword into the name field for a little bit of added advantage. So something like real estate or Orange County or something like that as a keyword in the name would be super helpful to improve some of those search rankings. And you can change your name as often as you want, meaning if there's certain seasonal things that you want to tie into, if you specifically want to work with buyers and then, next year you want to work with sellers, you can change your name anytime you want, as often as you want. Your username, however, once you have picked that, you do not want to change it. That is Instagram.com/username. So if you change that username, you change your Instagram link, which means anywhere you've linked to your old username are now dead links. So if you've got that on your, your articles and blog posts and emails and all those things, all those links die if you change your username. So once you pick your username, you kind of want to stick with it. Putting something like a dot or an underscore to separate words or names is perfectly acceptable. You'll notice mine is JENNS_trends. That's Jen's trends. And I specifically keep them separated with the underscore because if the underscore is not there, people can't read it. They see the JEN, but they don't know what the NS is, and they see the trends, but then they try to roll all the letters together and get kind of confusing. So those dots or underscores can help in setting up success for people to be able to read and break up those words if you have multiple words in your username. All right, so the next thing is your profile photo. I love that Rita has her happy, shiny, smiley face. You can see her, you know what she looks like. As realtors, we know we like to put our photos on things because we want people to know who we are. That's totally fine. But make sure you've got a good photo in your profile photo. It should be something that is consistent with your other social media. It should not look drastically different. If someone knows what you look like on Facebook and they come to Instagram and they don't match up, they're not sure that it's you. So we want to keep that profile photo consistent if possible. We also want a good singular photo, just you, not a lot of busyness in the background, not 10 people in the photo. The closer up on the face, the better, meaning not the full body shot, but more of even that selfie level. Why? Well, because when you look on Instagram, those profile photos get super tiny. They're about 1/4 of an inch. And so if you've got something with a building and 10 people standing in front of it, when you shrink that down to that super tiny size on Instagram, it's pretty hard to determine what is actually in that image. If you are going to use your logo, meaning you have a logo associated with your brand, your agency, anything like that, perfectly fine. Try to use the logo as an icon only, not any text. So if you normally have like a triangle as your logo and then you have like your text and stuff underneath, crop out the text, just the triangle component. Again, when you shrink it down that small, no one can read the text anyways, and it starts to look very complicated when it's in that type of format. So it's best to have just the icon component of your logo. All right, the bio description. And I've got another slide to talk a bit more about this because this is your meat and potatoes. This is the most important part of your profile on Instagram. Why? Well, this is related to keyword search. We'll be talking more about that coming up as well, and how to get found by your ideal target audience. It's important you have that information here in your profile bio. Also, the only time anyone's ever going to read this is the first time they come to your profile. Once they're following you, they'll probably never read this again. They might glance at it, but the only time anyone's really going to read this is the first time they find you on Instagram. So we want to write this for those first time visitors. It should be your 30-second elevator pitch. This should be something that tells them who you are, what you do, and what's in it for them. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. The next component is going to be your URL, your web link. You get one web link on Instagram, one. And everybody hates it. I think it's amazing. I never want them to change this because it forces us to A, be creative, and B, it keeps that high quality traffic. If you could drop a link on every single post, then it becomes just like Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where we're just link dropping. And that's no fun. It's boring. This forces us to be creative to get people to click over to the link in bio. And it gives us an opportunity to actually capitalize on that traffic in valuable ways. So you're going to want to have a good URL in there. In this case, Rita has obviously their website for their homepage, and I've got a tip coming up with more ideas on how to optimize that link in the bio. And then you want your contact info. This is super important that this is set up because we want people to be able to reach you from Instagram. So we want, obviously, you're going to have the follow options. You're going to have the message, which is the DM option. And then you have the contact button. Here's where you can have call, text, email, or directions. You get 4 options. Call, if you want to have your phone number out there for people to call you, by all means, go for it. But recognize that means they can call you at 2 o'clock in the morning. So depending on your comfort level with people having your phone number, you don't have to put your phone number in there, but you can. Or if you have like a Google phone number or something, you can put that in there. Same thing applies to texting. They can text you at that number. They can email you, so you can set up your email that they can email you directly from here. And then you have directions. So in this case, Rita has their actual office location. You could have directions enabled to be able to go to that physical location. So those are really important because, again, if somebody finds you and they're like, hey, I want to know more, I want to view that property, or I want to work with you, you want them to be able to get a hold of you. Even if that's only email, you want one option at least for them to be able to connect with you. Okay, so here is a little bit more about that profile description. Like I said, there are 3 key things, and this is super important that you pay attention to these 3 areas of the profile: who you are, what you do, and what's in it for them. Those are the 3 key things, again, for a first-time visitor. So this isn't as a real estate agent, but this is a rental property for actual student housing related to a campus. And so in this case, they have that they are a new luxury student living property. That's who they are, right? They are a luxury student property. Great. What they do, they're currently leasing. Obviously, this is an older photo, but they're currently leasing for the time frame. And then you have the what's in it for them, which is the rooftop pool, sign me up. And 2, they're less than 300 steps to the UT campus. If you've ever been a college student, you know how valuable every minute of sleep is in those mornings. And the closer you are to campus, the later you get to sleep in. So that's a what's in it for me. I want to be close to campus. This is a benefit to me. Now, that what's in it for them can be anything. It could be something as simple as, this is what they're going to get when they follow you. They're going to get tips and advice on real estate in Orange County. It could be something where you could say, click here to get your, free home evaluation, whatever it is. There has to be something of value, whether it's that call to action or that in some way you are helping them. There has to be some sort of incentive for them to actually care enough to click that follow button and want to connect with you. So when you're crafting all of this, I do want you to keep in mind the fact that Instagram does tend to truncate longer bios. So we do want those kind of bullet format if possible, where each line is a bullet point, not a long run-on paragraph. No one's going to read a long run-on paragraph. If it's scannable, where it's got like the really quick, easy to read bullet points, that's advantageous. But when we do bullet points, it also lengthens the entire bio. And Instagram goes, oh, well, that's too long. It's covering too much space in the feed. We are going to truncate it. And so you can see the image on the left is where they've actually cut off with ... more. And then if you click on that, you see my version on the right. So why does this matter? Well, imagine if my profile bio was flipped. Imagine if I had mom to mini fashionista, high heel wearing, IG loving, straight talking, and then globally recognized. If it was truncated, you would see mom to mini fashionista, high heel wearing, IG loving. What do you think I have anything to do with if you read that? Fashion, shoes, not social media, not Instagram training, right? So we want to make sure that the most important part of your bio is the first 2 or 3 lines of text. So your who you are, what you do, we want those to be the first kind of 1 to 2 bullet points. And then you can get into like more of the personality based. So if we just go back really quick, I want to take you back to Rita's. She had up here, real estate is my passion. She's got, the mom of 2 boys in a lab, wife of a retired fireman. So those are the personal components. Those are the things about her that people connect with on a personal level. Those things are important. And that's why, again, I have the mom to mini fashionista, the high heel wearing. This is part of my personality and part of my brand, but it's also what allows people to connect with you as an agent individually, because people connect with people. So we want some of that humanized component in these profile descriptions. We don't want this to be something where it is just corporate speak and just like, just fact upon fact upon fact. That's not going to get people to connect with you. You could list out your entire resume. Don't matter. But tell me you jump out of airplanes. Oh, that's interesting. So there's things that we want to add that still add that personal and kind of human component to our profiles. All right, so that link in bio, I mentioned that we have the link in bio, the single link on Instagram where you can drive traffic. Here is my recommendation, is that you do not send people to your homepage. You absolutely can, but it can be overwhelming when you send someone to your homepage. And I tend to use the example of, let's say you walk into a department store and you see a fabulous outfit on the mannequin and you're like, I want that. But nothing around the mannequin is what's on the mannequin. The shirt is somewhere on the 3rd floor. The pants are somewhere down on the 1st floor. The belt is somewhere hidden in the clearance rack. The shoes are over on the 2nd floor. You're never going to be able to put together that entire outfit if you have to search the entire store. But if you put every piece that was on that mannequin right next to it, I can grab every size that I want, walk into the changing room, try it on, walk out and purchase. And that's the issue with the homepage. If you're just sending people to your homepage, you're sending them into the department store with no map. Whereas if we give them a good link in bio solution, you're putting everything they need right there so that they can get exactly where they want to go. So to do this, I highly recommend you work with your web designer, whether you do this yourself in WordPress, whether you have somebody in your team or your agency that builds out the web pages for you. We just want to create a single page on Insta or on your website that is for Instagram related traffic. So if you go to my website, mine is not perfect. It is just an example, but if you go to my Instagram account and then go to my website, it's Instagram.com or it's Instagram links. So if you tap on that URL on my Instagram profile, it takes you to my page for Instagram links. And on there are a whole bunch of photos. And you usually want to keep the options to about 5 or so. We don't want this to be a Cheesecake Factory menu with 32 options. We want this to be 5 or 6 at most options. But what it does is now anytime you're saying, hey, go click on my link in bio, what are the things you're normally promoting? Maybe it's, going to your blog, maybe it's going to MLS listings, maybe it's going to an opt-in to your newsletter, maybe you're doing webinars or those sorts of things. Whatever those things are, you want a link for each of those on that landing page. So if I say, hey, read my latest blog, go click the link in bio, they land on that dedicated landing page. They go to the blog option, and obviously my most recent blog is going to be the first one on the top of the blog page. So it's an extra click in the middle, but I'm getting them exactly there. Now we want to make sure that this page is formatted for mobile use, because 99% of people coming to that link are going to be doing it on mobile, on Instagram. They're not going to be on desktop. So we want that landing page optimized for mobile use. You can also go in and update this. You can, change out the content. You can put something in there if you're running a limited time campaign or something. You can switch it out. Here's why this is so important, and here's why this works. You get to retain all of that traffic. So everybody that clicks on that link lands on your website. You retain all of that traffic, meaning you can look at your Google Analytics and see what everybody's doing. How often are they navigating from that page to the certain links? How long are they staying on your pages after they come to those links? All that sort of stuff is in your Google Analytics. Additionally, if you have your Facebook pixel set up, or they call it a meta pixel now, set up on your website, you can now retarget all of that traffic with Facebook and Instagram ads. So you've got all traffic being able to be targeted that come to that link. Now, here's the common question I get is, well, why can't we use a third-party tool? There is literally a tool out there called Link in Bio. There's other tools that do the same thing. And the reason why I don't recommend those, but they work just fine. Absolutely, if you're using it, it's fine. But you're giving your website traffic to somebody else. So if they click on that and then they go, nope, I don't want that option, and they leave, you never get the website traffic. But if they land on your landing page and go, no, I don't want that, and they leave, you still own that website traffic for all those retargeting purposes and that sort of stuff. Additionally, if that third-party tool goes down, which has happened, you lose all of that functionality. Now no one can get to your website. You've put a giant moat around your castle and pulled up the drawbridge. They can't get in. So not that it happens regularly, but it can happen if they're going right to your website. That's not an issue. So there's a couple reasons why I prefer to do this on your website. But yes, if you want to use one of those third-party tools, that's perfectly acceptable as well. All right, so here's some other fun things that you can do on your profile now that we've spent so much time talking just about setting all of that profile stuff up. I know, but like I said, it's all about the foundations and getting that optimized. So other things you can do is the highlights. These are those bubbles that you see underneath where it says add tools, insights, and email. There's those round bubbles. Those are your highlight galleries. That's where whenever you have Instagram stories, you can then transfer them to a highlight, which means they no longer, so stories expire for 24 hours, but highlights live forever until you take them out. So if you have certain stories that you want to make sure get repurposed and people can always access them, put them here. Again, think first-time visitors. What are the types of things that a first-time visitor to your profile would be interested in? Things maybe like a meet the team, meet the people, within your agency or that work with you on your team that they would potentially interact with. If you have current listings, you can update that with current listings. You can have a frequently asked questions. If you typically work with first-time home buyers, you could do frequently asked questions for first-time home buyers and have some commonly, asked questions and those relevant answers saved in there. So there's a lot of things that you can do to customize that content. Instagram Reels, we will be talking much more about Reels over the next 2 days, but those are something that you can actually have a Reels gallery. So if you look there, the 9 square grid is the grid. The next one with the little kind of play icon, that's the Reels. The next one is the videos, then guides. But so you can actually have Reels that aren't posted to your profile. I do that occasionally, but we can add other Reels and get more chance for exposure. And we're going to talk instead more about that in the coming days. Instagram guides, I personally love these. These allow you to take any of your feed posts and almost create that same kind of highlight feature, but for your feed posts. So if you, again, want to create a guide specific to, first-time home buyer inquiries, and you can have all of your posts or other people's posts that are great resources for answering those kind of questions or giving those resources. You can put those in a guide. And if you want more help on that, you can go to jenstrends.com and just search Instagram guides. And I've got tutorials and stuff that'll walk you through that. One of the new things, this literally just came out last week and I kind of lost my mind over it. I got like probably more excited than I should have, but pinned posts. So if you look at there on my profile, you'll see the first 2 posts have that thumbtack icon on them. Those are pinned posts. Why this matters is you can do up to 3 pinned posts, and it takes any post anywhere in your feed, and you can pin it to the top. So again, for those first-time visitors, this is your way to be able to make sure they see the most important content up front. So in this case, I have one of my reels with one of the most frequently asked questions. I literally say I could retire on this question, is where should you put your Instagram hashtag? So I pinned that video because that's one of the most commonly asked questions I get. And then the second one is a post about my membership program that I have. So if someone's coming over and they want to learn more and they want to work with me, they can find out about my membership program. So those are the 2 that I have pinned. You could pin something like, again, a frequently asked question, about you. If you have current listings and you want to pin those ones, anything that works for you to say, this is what I would want someone coming to my profile for the first time or at any point to be able to see and not have to dig for the content, because that Are You Ready post isn't that old, but that where should you put your hashtags, that's an older post. That's probably like a couple months old. So you have to scroll down through all my content to ever find that. And I want to make sure you see it right up front. So being on a pinned post keeps it up there. It takes it out of where it was on the grid, but if you unpin it, it puts it back where it originally was on the grid. So again, this prevents your new audience from having to go and dig for information about you. You can give them the information you most want them to see right up front. So it's a super, super helpful tip. Okay, so now we're going to talk about optimizing for search. This is going to be really important going forward. This is one of the big things, one of the big changes for 2022 that has a ton of impact on how Instagram actually works. So up until recently, we didn't have keyword search on Instagram. You could search hashtags, you could search accounts, and you could search locations. That was it. Now we can actually search for keywords. So if someone is going in and searching, long tail keywords don't work. So if someone said, homes for sale in Orange County, you're not going to get a search result. That's just not going to happen. But they might get Orange County activities. You might get things, I haven't looked to see, but you might be able to look for Orange County homes. I don't think that's going to populate anything. But if you had, home listings, that would probably populate, but it's going to be global. It's not going to be located to where you are. But you want to think about the types of things that you want to be found for in the geographical area within Orange County that you serve. Obviously Orange County is not that big, but it's pretty big and diverse. So if you're specifically working more in the Newport area, you might not care so much about working with people who are looking in Orange or Santa Ana and other components. So you want to have something that's hyper focused to the Newport area. You're going to want to make sure that your content is optimized for search as it relates to Newport Beach. So these are things that we want to keep in mind when we're writing up all of our content, including the profile description that we just talked about, because Instagram is going to look at 3 components to determine what your content is about. They're going to look at that profile description. So if your profile description is all about real estate, but you're posting about dogs, they're like, this does not compute. So they're looking for correlation between the content as well as the profile description. They're going to look at those post captions. They want to see what you have written in that post caption. That's going to tell them in the back end what that content is about. And they're also going to look at your hashtags if the hashtags are in the original caption. They will not look at hashtags in the comments when it comes to keyword search. You'll still show up in hashtag searches if your hashtags are in a comment, but we want to make sure that the hashtags are in the original caption to help with keyword search. Now, if you've got a good descriptive caption and hashtags, those almost become redundant because the caption is pretty much telling Instagram what the content is about and the hashtags are just duplicating that. but we still want to use both because a lot of people are still going to look for or follow certain hashtags. So what does this look like in practice? And this is not a real estate example because I have yet to find a really good real estate example of what this looks like. But this is an example. So I did that search for kids crafts. So this is one of the posts that came up, and you can see in her caption, she has these little hands. That's the AI is smart enough to start figuring out that probably has to do with kids. She has the word handcraft. So I asked for crafts. That ties in. She says, my kids, handmade gift. So there's all these contexts within that caption that start to tell Instagram and the artificial intelligence that this post is probably about a kid's craft. Then we go into her hashtags, hashtag crafts for kids, kids Christmas crafts, and hashtag kids crafts. So the hashtags are explicitly telling Instagram, yes, this post is about kids crafts. But then you cut over to her profile. She also has in there that she's a mama. That means correlate to kids. The AI is smart enough to figure that out. And she has the word crafts in her description or her profile description. So Instagram is looking at it saying your profile is about kids and crafts. Your content is about kids and crafts. This is likely to hit the mark, and it's going to be one of the top ranked results for me when looking for that. In comparison, if her profile was all about, I don't know, engineering, but here she had something about kids crafts, not that it wouldn't still show up in search, but it may not be one of the top searches because the profile description doesn't correlate directly to the caption and the hashtags as it relates to kids crafts. So it is looking at all three of those components to determine how high your content is going to rank. So you want to keep that in mind. Like I said, picking geographical locations within Orange County. If you're certain types of homes, obviously luxury homes versus family homes, single family homes versus apartment living, townhouses, all those sorts of things are things that you're going to want to focus on and make sure that you're using those keywords in the right places to help people find the types of things that they're looking for. All right, so we're going to really quickly go through how to create more attractive content. We're going to go through pretty fast on this because we are going to talk more about some of this coming up tomorrow. But some things to keep in mind, this is a very technical term. We want to make it Instagrammy. And when I say Instagrammy, I mean make it pretty. Make it appealing. This is not that traditional front of flyer, the kind of that curbside image with the whole house. That's not Instagrammy unless it's a really gorgeous house and it's perfectly lit and has like gorgeous front yard component. Then that might be Instagrammy, but that is not typically Instagrammy. This image, which is much more Instagrammy it's got the pool, it's got the palm trees, the lights, the sunset. And also, this is probably taken from either a second story window or maybe even on top of a roof or something. It's not from a traditional angle. It's not you standing beside the pool going, took a photo. It's a unique perspective, which makes it a little bit more Instagrammy. So when you're looking to add photos on Instagram about the properties, focus on the features. Is it an amazing chef's kitchen? Does it have an incredible closet? Does it have a fabulous backyard? What are those components that make it a little bit more photographable than just a traditional image? Play with colors. If the kitchen is very white, which is very on trend right now, throw some pops of color in there as props, whether it's a big bowl of, oranges or lemons or some beautiful pink flowers. Add some color because people are drawn into those pops of color. Play with angles. Again, here going up onto the second floor versus the ground floor. I tell people, take your camera and put it right down on the floor, especially with hardwood floors. If you put your camera not up here at eyesight, but down literally on the floor, it makes those long linear lines of the flooring accentuated. So you're playing with those angles. It's just a fun way to make something that is an everyday photo look a little more Instagrammy. We also want you to think about writing captions that talk to the emotional and that relatable component when it comes to a property. So rather than just listing all the bullet points of that property, that is very boring. That is not emotional. Instagram is an emotional platform. We connect with things. We get the goosebumps. We get all the feels. We want to have an emotional connection. This is an example from a real estate group up in the Bay Area. But they have tucked at the end of a quiet court, this home is the epitome of luxury and location. Features include a chef's kitchen with large center island, walk-in pantry, a beautiful owner's suite with gas fireplace, and a stunning backyard oasis. So we're using those descriptive words. We're pulling them in through the emotions of the language. And they have, relax in your outdoor living space. And then it's, visit the link in bio. Don't click on the link in bio, visit. Like all the language in here is pulling on that emotional context that makes people more likely to engage with it. So again, no list of bullet points. Start thinking emotionally how you can connect. Another huge tip for Instagram when you're creating content is tips and advice. People want helpful information. We're going to talk a lot more about this tomorrow, but it is not just about listing every property you have for sale. No, it is not. Because if I'm not looking to buy right now, that's irrelevant to me. But what is relevant to me is maybe that I'm working on doing my kitchen remodel. Maybe I'm looking at redoing some flooring. Maybe I just want to spruce up my holiday decor. Whatever it is, when you can add these tips and advice, this becomes shareable content. This becomes highly engaged content. These are the types of things that people want to consume on a daily basis. This is social content. This is helpful content. So we're going to want to do more and more of this type of stuff where you're sharing, tips and advice, trends that are happening in the industry when it comes to things like decor, resources. If you know somebody locally who's a great landscaper, sharing those resources, that kind of stuff. That ties into this one here. Michelle had said, hey, here's a tip on how to clean up your place. If you need help, here's who to reach out to. And she literally gave references to local contractors and local businesses who can help you if you don't want to DIY it. So partner up with other businesses and do some of that cross promotion. It's a great way to get in front of their audience, for them to get in front of your audience, but also be providing content of value to your audience. Provide education. Like I mentioned the example of first-time homebuyers. If you're a first-time homebuyer, you don't know what you don't know, so help them. Answer those questions, provide the things that they need to know. In this case, this is more kind of commercial related, but we started talking about what is the cap rate. And they were doing all the, this whole component of posts related to this. So answer those frequently asked questions, give those tips and advice, be that resource so that when someone says, hey, I need an answer, I know he's got that answer. And they're going to go contact you because they've been seeing your content and they know that you're going to have the answers they need. I mentioned the shareable content. This is one that I know you all can relate to because we live here in Southern California, where at Halloween, it's hot, right? We're still in the 90s at Halloween. And having moved here from Canada almost 19 years ago, my first Halloween in San Diego, I legit carved my pumpkin 2 weeks early. You all know that was a mistake. That pumpkin wilted in like 24 hours and it was completely useless. I couldn't keep my pumpkins. I was like, I don't understand. I'm used to Canada where pumpkins can last 2 weeks. No, they melt here. And so this was a great post by Morgan that she kind of gave us some tips. And she was like, okay, if you want to keep your pumpkins a little bit longer, here's some things you can do to keep your pumpkins a little longer after they've been carved. Now, to someone like me, that was highly shareable content. I was like, I'm going to tell all the moms because your kids want to carve pumpkins, but Halloween falls on a Tuesday and you're not going to carve pumpkins on Tuesday after school and then go trick-or-treating. How do we make our pumpkins last? So these kinds of things, they're fun, but they're on trend. They are relatable and they are shareable, which when something is shareable means if I go and take this post and I share it to my Instagram stories, it's going out to my audience. And if they tap on that, they're on your content. So it's a chance to have your audience help you expand the reach of your content with high quality resources. So create that shareable content. And you also want to make sure we make it your own. This is one of my tips, to make sure you always have your phone handy. And when I say handy, I mean like legit in your hand, so that when you walk by something, you can take a photo. If you see pretty flowers, gorgeous trees in bloom, some fun architecture, dogs running in the dog park, whatever it is, take those photos so that you have them in your own archive of images. We don't get a lot of rain here in Southern California all the time, right? We have like a little rainy season, but we're probably not going to see rain for a while. But what if you really wanted a rain post? You wanted a photo about rain. You're like, well, you got blue sky for the next 6 days. How am I going to get a rain post? Rather than going to Google and taking somebody else's image, if the next time it rains, you snap some photos of rain on the sidewalk, rain on your window, and just save them, you have them the next time you want that type of content. So create subfolders, even in your photo gallery or your camera roll, and just go in and just dump content in there so that you always have access to those photos. You own the copyright to them. You don't have to worry about where they came from. And it's a great way to actually keep your aesthetic because you took the photo. You have a certain way of taking photos. They're all going to look similar versus taking a smorgasbord of Google images, which you don't own the rights to and you probably shouldn't be using anyways. Types of content that you can grab when you're on the go. Again, having that phone handy. When you're doing property tours, go through, snap some photos, just of that property. Go through, grab those photos. Again, being cognizant of Instagram type content. Put the camera down low, shoot up high, shoot from the side, grab some good photos, even if you don't get that property listing. But if there's some cool architecture features that you could use later in some other promotional content, not a bad thing to have on hand. Updates on local developments or activities. People want to know what's going on in their neighborhood. So that's type of content that you see something, you see events going on at the park or signs coming up for upcoming events. You can share that kind of content. We already talked about decor tips, that sort of thing, commonly asked questions. Go behind the scenes of you as an agent, whether it's stories, feed posts, any of that kind of stuff. Talk about your life. What are you doing for the weekend? What are your summer vacation? How are you managing, child at home for the summer? Any of those sorts of things from your personal life, not all of it, but kind of mixing in some of that personal component, as well as, maybe what it's like in your office. Any of those sorts of things as, the behind the scenes and that personal life that kind of mixes in, that's you. No one else can create that content because that's your life and your experience. These were a couple examples I just wanted to showcase. So this example on the left is from Ricky the Realtor. And this is I want to say this was out in the Palm Springs area, but it was a very unique architecture type home. And so he did this walking tour through it and gave all these tips and advice and everything behind the type of architecture and how they did the design and everything. So it was very informational, but also kind of entertainment based. And then we have Andrew Lynn over here. And this is kind of that a little more behind the scenes where, he's at a conference, but he's talking about how this all ties in with the speaker and LGBTQ. So we're in June right now, Pride Month. So it's kind of on trend because it's Pride Month, but it's also relevant. And it also shows that component of his life beyond just actually, selling your house. So when you optimize your Instagram profile for success, all the things we talked about today, putting all these components together, then that's how you're going to drive those optimal results and website traffic in the long run. We're going to talk a lot more about how to do all of this in the coming days. But with that, I'm going to wrap up for today and take some questions. So I'll check the chat here. If you have any questions for everything we've gone through, drop those in the chat and we'll answer those questions. If you want to connect with me, please do so. I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet as Jen's Trends, JENNS_trends on Instagram, YouTube, Clubhouse, though I'm not there that often, Twitter, all those places. I also have a free Facebook group. If you want to go over to Facebook and search Jen's Trends in social media, I do have that free Facebook group where there's actually a lot of real estate professionals in there as well. But we talk all things social media, especially Instagram news and updates. But if you really want to stay on top of all of it, I actually have a membership program called Profit Your Profile. And that's where we share all breaking news related to Instagram. We do 4 live sessions in there every month, including live trainings. This month, we had one of the Microsoft social media team members in the group teaching. Last month, we had Chef Claudia Sandoval. She's winner of Master Chef and has her own TV shows as well. So we have some great guests that come in and help share how to learn Instagram marketing, as well as training from yours truly. So you get all my expertise and direct access to me as well. And that's that QR code, or you can go to profityourprofile.com. I am going to pull up the chat here really quick. And just go up here and I'm just gonna find some questions while I find these questions. And then I'll turn off the screen share so that we can chat a little bit more. Oh, and then just a reminder, you do have access to all of these slide decks, and we will do the same thing again tomorrow. So we'll have tomorrow's slide deck available. Marlo had said, are Instagram links similar to Linktree? And yes, that's essentially, I'm having you create your own link tree. So Linktree is a very common third-party tool that a lot of people use. And by doing that, your basic Linktree becomes that middleman where you're basically saying, okay, Linktree, you manage the options and then send them to the destinations on your website. I'm suggesting you take out Linktree as a middleman and make your own version. But yes, they're essentially the same thing. And Alton had asked, how do I feel about Linktree? Honestly, they're great. The tools are perfectly fine. If you're using them, I'm not telling you to stop. And you know, most of them are free, good resources, but it's kind of those things I always say, you get what you pay for. So when you're using somebody else's free tool, you're kind of at their mercy. And not to be rude, but I kind of think that things like Linktree are just fugly. They're not attractive. When you build it on your own website, it's in your color scheme, it's on your theme, it's, you know, it's already branded to you, and you have more control over what those buttons or images or any of that looks like. So I feel like you get more opportunity to connect with your audience if you're doing it on your own. But again, there's nothing wrong with any of those tools. So Sylvana had asked, is it better to go with business or personal? Good question. So there's 3 types of accounts on Instagram: business, personal, and creator. You should not be a personal profile. You do not want to be a personal profile. This is not Facebook, and it has no negative implication to be a business profile like it does on Facebook. Facebook, we all know, penalizes business pages. And so a lot of, especially in the real estate space, a lot of people tend to keep their personal profile and use that for business, which, fun fact, is actually against Instagram's terms of service or Facebook's terms of service. So it's not recommended to do that either, but everybody does it. I know. On Instagram, though, there isn't that limitation. There is no negative impact by being a business profile. In fact, you want to be a business profile because you get way more functionality. You get the option to have third-party tools connect. You get the option to have scheduling tools and reporting tools and any of those sorts of things. You also get a lot more features in direct messages. There's certain features that are only available to businesses and creators in direct messages that are not available to personal profiles. Also, it does set you up for that kind of professionalism. When we were looking at Rita's profile, she had real estate agent in gray below. That you get that option when you're either a creator or a business profile, and you can choose that option. So it gives you that extra level of people being able to say, you know, this person is in that industry. Mine says entrepreneur. You know, depending on the industry you choose, you just choose that title. You don't write it in yourself. You choose from the list they give you. But you definitely want to be a business profile. Some people choose to be a creator profile, which is essentially the exact same thing as business, except creator does not have third-party access. They don't have the API functionality. And what that means is if you have something like, I use Agorapulse for a scheduling tool, which allows me to go in and pre-schedule my content across all my social media. That cannot connect to a creator profile. They don't have API. They can only connect to a business profile. The only other difference is music. So if you want to use Instagram Reels and you want to do all the fun, funky, trendy music, they give all of that to creators. They don't give it to business accounts, unless you are an entrepreneur. But if you put the entrepreneur category as a real estate agent, it's very confusing to your audience. So it kind of gets you into a pickle. If you don't care about third-party tools and you want the music, then go ahead and set up as a creator. It's not going to impact you, again, in any other way, but at least you get access to the music. And why that is, and this is kind of a long roundabout answer, but basically Instagram is ultra protective over the copyright rules and obligations to music creators, meaning if you are using music as a business, you're probably trying to use that to make money. And if you're trying to make money, you need to pay royalties to have access to that music legally. So that's why Instagram restricts who can have access to the music profiles, which again, why they give it to one type of account and not another doesn't make any like real rational sense, but that's the justification. So if you really want that cool, funky music, all the, top trending music, the creator profiles will help you get that. Okay, so Rona said, if we could have someone do our Instagram, would you recommend anyone? I would. I actually have a list of names of people that I have worked with that would be great. If that's something, feel free to email me, Jen, Jenn, at jenstrends.com, and I can send you that list of referrals. They all range in terms of price and functionality based on, your needs and their needs and everything else. But I do have a list of about 4 or 5 people that I can recommend. I do not do any execution. I do work with clients, and I've again had a number of consulting clients where I can help you with your strategy. So we can talk and we can figure out what to do, but I don't do any execution. So if you're looking for someone to actually post on your behalf and create that content, I can definitely give you those. They would not be local, however. None of those people, I believe, one of them might be in Northern California, but the rest of them I don't believe are in California. So it's not like you're going to get somebody who would be local, but that doesn't mean that you can't find somebody on your own locally who would be able to help you with that. Because if you want someone to go out and do the photos and craft some of the content for you, you would want somebody local. So again, the email to email me is Jen, Jenn, at jenstrends.com. And I can actually, let me just do this really quick. While we're doing that, I'll throw this back up here. That's got the email on it right here underneath the website. And then we have the Jen at jenstrends.com. So you can do that. Let me go back here to the chat. Sorry, and now my computer's over here dinging away. So Savannah had said, I did not see ads tools when I was talking about this. Correct. So fun fact, you can only be so good at so many things. And I know enough to be mildly dangerous when it comes to advertising, but there is no way I can be an expert on organic and advertising strategies. So everything that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of days is going to be organic strategies, because you can't do good ads until you do good organic. I always tell people, if you just throw a bunch of money behind crappy content, it's just expensive crap. So we want to make sure that you have really good foundations in terms of your organic content. Then once you know what's working organically, then you know what to put your money behind so that you're not wasting your money. Now, that being said, I'm going to drop her name here in the chat. And it is Amanda Robinson. And she is at The Digital Gal. So she's everywhere on social media. She's facebook.com/The Digital Gal. She's instagram.com at The Digital Gal. She is the genius of Instagram and Facebook advertising, and she has a number of programs and free resources that can help you as well. Fun fact, she's the only person that has carte blanche access to my Instagram account. She can go in, and if she wants to run ads, or if I want to run ads, I literally give her like the key. I'm like, go make the ads happen. And she works not exclusively with real estate, but she works predominantly with real estate related clients. And she has a ton of wealth of knowledge and experience, and she can help you out with, like I said, whether one-on-one training, support, her membership program, or any free resources. And she's also available for hire to help you do your ads. So you can definitely check her out. Okay, it looks like those are all the questions, and we're coming up here on the hour. So I'm going to say thank you so much. Again, they've dropped the link for the slide deck here in the chat as well. So if you didn't get the slides already, make sure you grab that link and you can have access to those. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow. And we're going to be going through a bunch more about content strategies. So we're going to talk stories, feed, and reels tomorrow, how to craft the content, what good content looks like, all the nuances and all that really fun stuff. So I know today was a lot. take a hot minute to let it all process down and go work on your profile bios. I would love for anybody, if you want to come tomorrow and maybe we can pull somebody from the audience who wants to volunteer. We can take a quick little hot seat look at your bio and give some, some critique, some maybe additional help with coming up how to write all of that so that it's best formatted for you. So happy to do that for somebody if you want to volunteer for that tomorrow and take some time tonight to work on your profile description. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much.